Hey guys, look, before the video starts, I just wanted to do this little intro just to let people know that the purpose of this video is not to knock the Nintendo Switch or their games. I love their games. I don't feel a strong sense of FOMO for their games. I don't feel that really for any game, even my favorite games. I could live without them. If they announced that they weren't going to develop them anymore in the future, I'd move on and still keep gaming. My purpose here is to look at the actual value of those games, the budget for those games. And are those games worth $80 and $90 considering the budget? Because that is Nintendo's business model. They're the company that we've always looked at and pointed at, and when we're talking to other companies or talking about other companies, and say, hey, look, they're an example of the fact that you do not have to put a lot of money into games to please us as gamers. Just make a great game. All of the visual prowess and all of that's great, but it's not necessary to make a great game. And now here they are. It just seems kind of odd that they are the company who's now saying we're going to charge $80 and $90. We expected that to come from PlayStation or Xbox or some of these other third-party developers who are making these AAA games and some AA games. It just seems kind of weird, and my main concern is not so much what Nintendo charges, because I don't feel like I have to go out here and buy them. You know, I'm not someone who's going to complain about their decision as a single company for deciding what they're going to charge for their product. My concern is the boomerang effect and how it's going to cause other companies to think about their games, because of course logically everybody knows that the games that come from Nintendo are very low budget in comparison to the other companies. So they're going to say, well, hey, if they can charge $80 and $90, how would it make any sense for anybody to complain if we made $100 games, $110 games? That is mostly what I'm concerned about. And really, even on that point, not for me, because I have no problem waiting on a game to go on sale. 90% of the games that I buy, and probably 98% of the games I buy, are on sale. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and get into the video. But I just wanted to make it clear that I'm not trying to talk anyone into anything. And I'm not trying to talk anyone out of anything. If you want to buy the Nintendo Switch, go ahead and buy it. If you want to pay $80 for their games, go ahead and do it. I believe and waiting on the market to speak. And if the market speaks and say that, hey, $80 and $90 is okay for Nintendo Switch games, then so be it. And, you know, like I said, it's not going to affect me in the way that I buy games, because I ended up, when I bought the Switch, well, I tell that story in the video, so I'm going to go ahead and shut up right now. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoy the video. And if you do enjoy the video, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'm going to stop talking right now. Enjoy the video. What's going on, guys? You know, I wanted to talk a bit about what's going on with Nintendo, and I wanted to give my personal opinion and view of this whole thing. Now, this video is going to be, I'm not going to commit so early to say I'm not going to put any data as a subject in this video, but it's mostly going to be just my opinion and my point of view. Now, when the Switch first came out, I bought the first one. And my intent was to buy it and play a lot of indie games, you know, the smaller budget games. I love those games. But every time I got on my PC or every time I played on my Xbox or my PlayStation, for some reason, I just felt like, you know, why would I play those types of games? Not that I never did, but not as much as I would have liked to. And I had a few of them in my backlog, but I just hardly ever played them. Because I just felt like, man, while I'm playing on this powerful, yes, even the console, the PlayStation and the Xbox are powerful in comparison to the Switch, which at this time, the Switch didn't even exist yet. When I'm looking at these small budget games and wanting to play them, I just found myself just rarely ever playing them. I would always play something that would really put a beating on whatever hardware I was playing. We know these games mostly as AAA games or AA games in some cases. So I purchased the Switch with the plan of, you know, playing these games a lot more. I thought, okay, the Switch would be very convenient. I'm always in a situation when I'm out. Sometimes I'm just waiting. I do a lot of reading in those situations. I thought, well, if I have the Switch, not only will I be able to have something I can grab real quick around the house to play a few of those games, I could also take it with me anywhere where I may end up having some spare time, so I can play some games on the Switch. So I purchased the Switch, and fast forward, the plan worked. I found myself, even around the house, when I want to play a game really quick, but I know I really don't want to sit down and play for a long time, Switch was right there. I would grab it and I would play some of those games I had been wanting to get to for a very long time. So my plan worked. That was good. But here's what happened. I later discovered that a lot of those games were also on PC. Now, I know you're probably laughing. I knew that there were games like that on PC. I just didn't know how many. I came to realize that a lot of those games that I was playing on the Switch, those low budget indie games, they also were on Steam. Oftentimes cheaper and with the DLC included. So that blew my mind. I'm like, okay, on Steam, I can get it cheaper and I can get DLC included a lot of times. Also, a lot of them had demos available. Like I'd be looking at a game on the Switch like, that looks pretty good. Out of curiosity, I would go over to Steam and look on Steam. They have a demo. Steam has an endless list of demos available to play. Then the Steam Deck came, and that was the end of the story when it comes to me and the Switch. I cannot tell you the last time I played the Switch. The last time I played the Switch might have been, and this is being generous, maybe 3 years ago. Because since I've gotten my Steam Deck, I've just had no reason to really pick the Switch up. Like I said, I'm not a person that suffers from FOMO when it comes to Nintendo. I'm not a person that just has to have play a Nintendo game. The bigger reason why I purchased the Nintendo Switch in the first place wasn't necessarily to play Nintendo games. Like I said, don't get me wrong, I like Nintendo games, that's all good. But when I'm looking at Nintendo games, I'm thinking I'm getting ready to buy a game and get a good deal. I'm thinking I'm getting ready to catch up on Nintendo games. And then I realize Nintendo they don't decrease the price of their games. And I'm like, at first, I was kind of weirded out by that. I was like, wait a minute, am I looking at the right version of the game? Is this a new game or what? And then I found out that no, Nintendo, they think a lot of themselves and their games. I was like, well, fuck all that. I'm not going to pay you full price for this game. It's not worth it. Now, I know I just pissed somebody off. Somebody may be listening to this. How dare you speak of Nintendo in that manner? Look, I'm just telling you my opinion. I like those kind of games, but not that much. Okay, that's my personal opinion. I don't knock you if you feel the opposite way. I really don't. I don't care. I don't judge anybody for that. I mean, you do you. And, look, I'm glad that there's somebody out there who feels that way about those games. And obviously, Nintendo hasn't suffered because of it, but that's just not for me. I'm not going to pay that kind of money for a game when I can go out here and buy other games that are just as enjoyable, cheaper. Also, like I just said, I could get DLC on it and all that. Why would I buy a 5 or 6 or 7-year-old Nintendo game when I could buy a game that's 5 or 6 or 7 years old, sometimes even newer than that, and get a much, 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 much better deal and get just as much enjoyment out of it? Why would I do that? Now, another thing I want to talk about the Steam Deck, I'm really surprised to see so many creators out here who know better. I'm certain they know better, who are out here talking about the fact that I think that the amount of Steam Decks that sold, anyway, the numbers are much, much lower than, of course, the Xbox, the PlayStation, and the Nintendo Switch. I think it was something like 4 million or 5 million or something like that out there, all total together. And these people are talking about it. And I'm not going to call any names, man, but man, these are some pretty big names. And I know they've been doing this for years. I know they know better. And it just really bothers me that people would have a following on their channel and they would intentionally try to deceive them in some ways. That's just crazy to me. I don't even understand, like, why are you doing this? But anyway, the point is, the Steam Deck was never intended to be a mass marketed product, which is why it's not mass marketed. It has nothing to do with Valve not being able to mass market it. Valve is a very successful company. They're a very powerful company. If they wanted to mass market it, they could have done it. But ideally, the ideal way that you get a Steam Deck is that you get an account with Steam and you purchase it through Steam. That is the reason why so many Steam fans are happy that they don't need to worry about these scalpers buying them all up and then going and, selling them on eBay or whatever, because Steam made it absolutely clear that, first of all, they set up all these roadblocks so that it would be extremely difficult for you to do something like that. It would be extremely difficult. I mean, you would have to have that, not only accounts, you would have to have different credit cards. You would have to have, there's so much information that you have to provide Steam in order to purchase. It's not like going on to Best Buys where you could just get a bot to just log on there real quick and just buy something. It's not like that. There's a lot of hoops you have to go through to be a customer on Steam. So you have to go to Steam, set up an account. You have to give up whatever information you need to give up. I don't know what that is now. And you would purchase it on Steam. I'm not going to say that you cannot buy any Steam Deck off of Steam. Of course, you probably can. Mostly those are, used Steam Decks, people looking to upgrade or something like that. But you're not going to walk into a Best Buy and see it on the shelf. You're not going to walk into a Walmart or Fry's or whatever and see it on the shelf. You're not going to walk into a GameStop and see it on the shelf. There's only one place you can go to buy Steam. I mean, not a Steam. Wow, wouldn't that be nice if we could buy Steam? But anyway, these games, these consoles rather, these Steam Decks are not mass marketed, and these people, they know this. So I don't know why they're out here trying to speak as if the Steam Deck is only selling what it's selling because nobody wants it or it's not in demand. It's not selling the way it's selling because it's basically marketed on a very low scale to a certain circle of people, and that is the people who are on Steam, the people who love to play games or buy their games and play their games through Steam. That is who it is marketed to. You've never seen a commercial about the Steam Deck. I think when it first came out, they may have made something for YouTube, maybe, but I can't even remember that. So it's not marketed to the mass gaming public, and these people know that. It was never intended for that. That there was some other ulterior motive for the Steam Deck coming out. I don't know exactly what it is, but obviously you don't need to know what it is. It wasn't intended to make a whole lot of money just off of the hardware. Now, what I think it was to promote people buying games, people buying more games. They wanted to give people a piece of hardware that they could play games on the move. And I think they also thought, I think they probably did some studies and probably thought that this would cause people to buy more games. And that worked, because everybody I know with a Steam Deck says two things. I bought it to work my way through my backlog, and it kind of worked and it kind of didn't, because I actually also ended up buying more games. I bought it to work my way through my backlog, but I ended up buying a whole lot of games. I mean, I have a wish list that is just as long as you can imagine. I mean, I just scroll down sometimes and just look at my wish list. I'm like, man, I don't even remember wish listing all of these games. And it's absolutely wonderful. I get emails every day about Steam sales. About 20% of the time, I end up buying something as a result of that. So I remember a study coming out a long time ago. If you want to research this, it probably won't be hard to find. They found out that most people who bought a Steam Deck, that's what happened to them. They ended up purchasing more games. So it's not mass marketed. Anybody can clearly see that. You don't need to be in the industry to know that. You can see it for yourself. And Valve is an extremely wealthy, powerful company. So if they wanted to mass market it, they could have. If they wanted to put it out there in an attempt to compete with other pieces of hardware, they could have done that. If they wanted to put it out there are laptops that are marketed more than the Steam Deck was. A lot of people, especially casuals, they don't even know what a Steam Deck is, but they know what a Nintendo Switch is. They know what an Xbox is. They know what a PlayStation is. The Steam Deck was not mass marketed, and it was not intended to be mass marketed. It's not like they made some kind of mistake. It was done intentionally. So now that we got that out of the way, I want to talk about how I feel about these price increases with Nintendo. I think it's absurd. I think it's absolutely absurd. I don't understand it. I mean, to me, I feel like when Xbox and PlayStation went in the direction they went, I feel like anybody who stuck with Nintendo, I think Nintendo should have appreciated that. But I'm starting to find out, well, not right now, but over the last few years, I found out since I've been into Nintendo, since I bought the Switch, I've been kind of keeping up with what they're doing. They're really condescending as hell, man. I mean, they really think a lot of themselves. And look, I got to give them this. It's not all their fault. A lot of the public treats them like, it's like they treat them like a child in a big family, and they're the little brother, like they're the youngest of 20 other children. That's how they treat them. Like that's the baby boy or the baby girl, the most spoiled child in the house. And I just think that since they're in the situation where they're in, that they make these low budget games, people support them because people want to play those games. They put out inferior hardware. People say, okay, we don't need for the games that you sell and the games that you make. We really don't need that. They walked away from AAA games because AAA games could not play on whatever hardware they had out. That's starting to change because technology is starting to improve. But people stuck with them. They still allowed them to, and you, the customer, believe it or not, you allowed them to stay in the game, no pun intended. You did that by sticking with them. Because like I just said, you're not going to go out here and buy a Switch only to play Nintendo games. A lot of you guys are out here playing other games, third-party games. And you stuck with Nintendo. And even if you have like a PlayStation or Xbox or a PC, you still have a Switch. You got some people who only have a Switch, but most people who own a Switch, they also own some other type of hardware, more than likely more powerful than a Switch. But people still stuck by the Switch. They still stayed loyal to it. They still gave them their money. There are people out here still buying their old games. Obviously, I mean, I haven't looked at any sales numbers or anything, but look, if they're still keeping their old games at full price, I gotta assume they're having good luck with that they're not seeing any issue with that. So people are sticking by them, man. And you would just think they would appreciate that, but they don't. And like I said, I can't completely blame them. I have to blame other people because you have people out here now, even today, who are defending what they're doing now. The idea that the company who has the lowest budget for their development, the lowest overhead, is the one that's going to increase the price to like $90, $80, $90. I don't care if all games aren't going to cost $80, $90 because all games aren't created equal anyway. There are some games that could get away with $90, and even though I wouldn't buy it, still I can see the reason for it because of so much you could get out of it. Like Grand Theft Auto, I know people who've been playing that game for years. I mean, it's got so many different modes and so many different things you can do. It's a game that you could just play forever. I get that. But if you're just going to make, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that game should cost $90. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that would not be quite as absurd, especially if they came out and because I know they're putting a ton of money into that game. I know that. I'm not unreasonable. I know that. But if they charge $90 for the game, I would not really say anything about it. I wouldn't say that because I would kind of see the logic in it. Like I said, I know they want to make their money back. I know they put a whole lot of money into it. They probably broke a record with how much money they put into it. So I could see that. But the only thing about that, even for them, is that for some strange reason, people tend to switch off their common sense in this industry, and they would think that they could also do the same thing, even though their game is not equal to Grand Theft Auto. They would see that as some kind of standard being set. That's the only bad part about it. And with Nintendo, I'm looking at their games like, okay, now I'm looking at your budget, and I'm looking at the budget of PlayStation, and I'm looking at the budget of Xbox, and I'm looking at the budget of these third-party games who make games for PC. They make AA and AAA games. I'm looking at their budget. If you can have a low budget like you have, and you're going to charge $80 and $90, that means that they could rightfully say, we're going to charge anywhere from $20 to $40 or even $150. In fact, you know what? If Nintendo can sell their games for $80 and $90, Grand Theft Auto should be able to sell Grand Theft Auto for $150. I mean, we have to be logical here. I mean, at least I'm going to be logical. And I think from what I'm seeing online, a lot of other people are going to be logical. A lot of people are speaking out against it. This is crazy. And don't get me wrong now, I'm not complaining. Don't take it. Some people, oh, you crying. I'm not crying. You know why I'm not crying? Because I'm not going to buy any of it. I'm not going to buy any of it anyway. And I'm still going to enjoy games. Like I said, that's why I started out telling you I bought the Switch when it first came out. And I walked away from the Switch. And I told you the story about how I saw all those old Nintendo games that still were full price. And how it wasn't even a second thought. I was like, that's absolutely crazy. That is mad. So yeah, it's no problem for me. Also, the price for the hardware, that's not so bad. But the games, come on, man. The price of games should be going down. There's so many games out there. So often you hear people say, there's too many games to play. We can't play them all. They say that because it's true. That's just not something people say to say something cute. That's actually a true statement. It's an understatement, in fact. There are so many games to play. So many sales. There are games out there. Take a moment to think. Think about games that you never got around to playing. Games that you wanted to play, but you just never got around to it. That's why a lot of people buy these handhelds now, so that they can go back and play those games. They can play it conveniently. They can play the main game that they're playing now on their big hardware, their powerful hardware, but they can take that handheld and play those older games. I just finished playing a couple of Call of Duties on my Steam Deck that I just never got around to playing. Everybody, if you're an avid gamer, if you play a lot, everybody suffers that. You cannot play them all. Now, I'm not talking about the people who play 1 or 2 games a year, play FIFA and Call of Duty or maybe Madden. You're good. So, of course, I'm not talking about you. But if you're a gamer like me, you cannot play them all. It's impossible. In fact, even with the Steam Deck, I still won't be able to play them all. So normally with a product, when you get an overabundance of it out there, the price of it falls. It doesn't increase. Have you noticed that no matter what happens in the industry to save these people money, the price of gaming or the price of the games never go down? I mean, we're going almost all digital now. Still, with all of those billions of dollars that they're saving, price never went down. In fact, the price, it went up a little bit. You know, right now we're talking about AI taking the place of some of the human beings that participate and help making these games. You know what? We could get to a point where they use all AI. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's a safe bet. We won't see the savings from that. They could come up with technology where they no longer need motion capture people. They got robots out here now that move like human beings. I've seen a film footage of, I forgot which company that was. One of my coworkers was showing me this robot, and I couldn't believe it. He was moving just like they had him doing tumbles and cartwheels and all of that. So, but we're still not going to see it. No matter what these people do to save money in making video games, we will not see the savings from it. It will not pass to the customer because that's not how corporations think. The only thing that keep corporations in check is us, folks. That's it. They're not going to check themselves. Their job is to make as much money as they can for their shareholders. We're not beholden to their shareholders. We're beholden to ourselves. But anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and leave it right there. I think I've said enough. This video has actually gone on a little bit longer than I thought. And I'm getting a little bit hungry and a little bit thirsty. But anyway, guys, if you like the video, please give it a like. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. And look, I did in one of my videos, probably 2 videos ago, I allowed a guy to say something disrespectful, and I kept it up for a reason, but I had an ulterior motive for that. So just remember, for the most part, I eventually did delete his comments, and also I blocked him from the channel, but I did let it stay up for about 3 weeks. But normally I block people right away. So if you like Nintendo, that's totally fine. If you want to tell me you think I'm wrong, that's totally fine. I'll be interested to hear what you got to say or read what you got to say. Just keep it respectful, not only for me, but everybody else. Not so much worried about me. Like I said, I'll just delete your comment and block it. All right. So stay respectful. You can say whatever you want to say. I don't care about you disrespecting me. But anyway, guys, until next time, stay safe.